Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a redo of an earlier video. In fact, it was one of the first videos I did was on validation. It has been all of 3 months since it's been out, and wouldn't you know it, there have been some breaking changes. There were some breaking changes to RXDart from .22 to .23, and in that video I also built my own provider. Which worked fine until recently, and that also broke. But we don't need to do that anymore. We have the provider package. Wicked Gummy Bear, which is an awesome YouTube name, was kind enough to go through the comments and document how you could bring that old video up to speed. But I thought a nice clean example would be good. This is such a common use case of what we do in the mobile app world. So real simple application, just a couple of fields here, some validation on them, a button that will not allow you to submit the form until you have met all the criteria of the validation. That's our objective for today. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I have created an application called Validation 2020. I've opened an emulator. I haven't started it yet because I'd like to start by bringing in the packages we need before I turn that on. So I'm going to go to pub.dev, and I'm going to search first of all for the provider package. And I'm going to grab the latest version here, and I'm going to bring that into the pubspec.yaml file and paste it right below those Cupertino icons. All right, so that's half our packages. The other one we want is RXDart. And so we grab that version here, we'll bring that into pubspec.yaml as well. Give that a save and let Visual Code do its thing. All right, now also before I fire up that emulator, I want to do some changes to the demo application that they give you right out of the box. So we'll go to main.dart. I'm going to get rid of these comments here. I'm going to get rid of everything. I'm going to go down to this class underscore my homepage state, and I'm going to get rid of everything below that. I'm going to take out these green comments, this final string title, and this override my homepage state there. I'm going to get rid of this line, and I'm going to convert this from a stateful to a stateless widget. I'm going to let code complete. I'm going to type B, bring up the build. We need a build method in the stateless widget, so I'm going to let it do that. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get rid of this, what's inside the parentheses there. And that should allow us to start the emulator. So I will right click, we'll debug. Here we go, and isn't that pretty? So we need to build a scaffold in here to start to show something on the screen. So let's do scaffold, and we'll have an app bar, which will have we'll build an app bar, which will have a title. That'll be a text widget, and we will just put validation in there. Save that. That should start to give us something on the screen. Then we want a body, and for the body, I'm just going to do a column. We'll give it children, and then I'm going to just code format so it's not so ugly. All right, so what I picture here is two fields. So we'll have a product name field here. We'll have a product price, and then we'll have a button. So really, really simple UI. What I'd like to do for the different elements on the screen is I'd like to have a helper function for each. So I'm going to create a function that creates a widget called product name. And inside there I want a text field, so we'll return a text field. with a decoration. We'll have an input decoration. And so, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to do space, enter, give myself some room. I'm going to put that semicolon there just to make the error go away. So in my input decoration, this is where I can put my label text. So that takes a string, which will just be product name. All right, I can hit save, and then I can come up here to my column, and we can put product name there, and I'll put a comma. All right, so there's our product name. Let's come down here to the next field, and let's call this one product price. So I'm just going to take product name. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to rename to product price. And also rename this label to product price. And then I'll come up here and add it to my column. Good, so that'll be our form. And then we just want a button at the bottom. So I don't think I'll copy and paste because there's going to be so much different there. So let's do widget, save button. And we'll just return a raised button. The child will be a text that says save product. And on press, let's just do a blank function for now. We can put our semicolon. I'm going to code format just to clean this all up a little bit. And then I will put my save button right there. And there we go. Maybe just a size box there just to put a little bit of space between the bottom of the field and the button. So let's just say a height of like 15.0. That's good. And then why don't I wrap the column with a padding widget, and we'll just say like 10 pixels all around just to give it some space on the end. Good. All right, so we can come in here, we can type things, we can type down here, we can click the button. But what we want to be able to do is we want as we type in our product name, we want some kind of evaluation in the background. And if we are not meeting validation, we want to see that. Same with the price. And this save product button should not be available to us unless both of these have met their validation conditions. So one way to do that is to create a block, and we can stream the values from these text fields as they're typed back to the block. The block can have a transformer on it that will apply the validation logic, and it will stream it right back to the error fields on our text field, which is precisely how we're going to go about this. So let's go to lib folder, and let's create a new file. Or, I'm sorry, new folder, and we'll call it blocks, and we will put a new file in there, and we will call it product_block.dart. All right, so this is where all our business logic is going to go. We're going to give it a class, and we will call it product block. And so what we want in here is a few streams that we can read and feed and validate. And so let's create a stream that we will call _product name. And we will make a behavior subject out of that, which is part of RXDart. Behavior subject. So we'll make it a type string. Behavior subject will give you the last value, even if you subscribe after that value comes down. Another type is the publish subject, which will not do that. So if you subscribe after a value is put into the stream, you don't get it. So we'll make this product price. Now I'm going to make this a behavior hub subject of type string, which may seem odd for a price. So bear with me, and I'll explain why I'm doing that in a second. I do need a closing right there. All right, so these are our variables. They are private. That's why there's the underscore here. We don't want anybody to be able to reach in and directly affect these streams without us being able to govern their behaviors. So one way we'll do that is we will declare how people can get these. All right, so we'll do a getter. We'll do a stream of type string, which will be our product name. And we'll do a get product name. Oop, it should be lowercase. And so that will go to our product name stream, like that. And this will be a stream of type double. And again, bear with me because I will explain why. So we'll do a get product price. And we will grab our product price dot stream. So these are the product price dot stream. So these are the publicly accessible methods by which you can get the product name, the product price. This is going to have an error because, like I said, we have created a string here and a double there. Again, bear with me. I'll explain that in a second. We want to be able to set our information as well. So we're going to create two functions. We're going to be able to pass our string into a function we will call change product name. And so this is as they type into the text field, we're going to feed this function and it will come back here to the background. And what we will do is feed the product name .sync.add. So streams have syncs. Think of it like a conveyor belt. You put the information in one side, it slides over to the person who is receiving it and comes out the end. And by adding it to the sync, we're putting on that belt and sending it to the receiver. We have another function that we will pass a string, and we will do a get. We will call that change product price. So this is the equivalent function for our price, where we can pass the product price to the background and put it in the sync. And these are blue up here because anytime you open up a stream, you need to provide, actually don't need to, but it is strongly suggested, which is why it's in blue, not red, that you close that, create a dispose method. So we'll do product name.close and product price.close, and those will go away. There. All right, so when we feed, we type here, we're going to be feeding these functions here. With the price, we're going to be passing a string back here. We're going to put it in the sync. Now, when we get that information, we want to get it from here out of the stream. Now, we don't want to just grab whatever is input into the form. We want to transform that and validate it and potentially pass back an error that the user might see. So onto these streams, we want to attach some validation. So we want to transform the stream, both of them, like that. And then we can go down here and we can create a transformer to do that. So let's create some transformers. And so let's create one to validate our product name. And let's say we want the characters, the minimum number of characters on our product name to be 4. That's our validation logic. So we create a final. We'll call it validate product name. And it's going to be equal to a stream transformer, which we'll need to import. And we're going to pass it a string, and we're going to receive a string from it. And we're going to take that from our handlers, and we want to handle data. and we're going to pass it the product name and a sync. We open up curly braces. I'm going to add my comma down here before I forget, or my semicolon down here before I forget. All right, so this is our validation logic. We say if product name dot length is less than 4, and we can write anything we want here. But in that case, into our sync, we want to add an error. And that error will be whatever we want to communicate to the end user. So we're going to say product name must be at least 4 characters. Else, we are just going to add the product name to the sync. So if I come up here to the product name and I take out this value here and I put in validate product name, everything that's typed is going to get dumped into this change product name function. But before we draw it back out, it is going to go through this transformer and we are going to validate it. And if it is less than 4 characters, we're going to add an error, which we can then wire up to our text field to display to the user. And if it is a valid value, we're just going to add it to the sync. And then later we can communicate that to the button. All right, so that's our transformer for our name. Let's add one for the price. So we will do validate product price. Same thing, it'll be equal to stream transformer. We're going to pass it a string, but we're going to get back a double. All right, we do from handlers as well. We handle data, and we are going to get, we're going to pass it a product price and the sync. Curly braces, I'm going to get my semicolon in there. And we can write whatever logic we want. So here's what I was thinking on the price. We will try to convert it to a double. And if that fails, then we will consider it invalid. So I'm going to do this reverse of what I did here. So I have sync add error up here. But basically, if we try, let's try to sync add double.parse product price. Okay, so it's going to try to price whatever it is to a double. And if that hits an error, it's not going to add the sync. It's going to jump right out here to the catch block. And then in the catch block, we can do sync.addError. Value must be a number. So when we come up here to our transformer, now we can add validate product price. And our error goes away because we're feeding this a string, because it could be a string. People could put in something that is not a number here in the text field. But what we want to do is when we come down here to our stream transformer, when that comes in, if that letter is in there, this will not be able to parse to a double, and we're going to call that an error and pass back the error to the user interface. Great, so almost done here. Let's add a function to submit. So let's add something that we can put on our button. So we'll create a submit product. And this is where you would wire up your database, but we're just going to say product submitted with name, $, and then we will do product name dot value and price. Then we'll do a $, as well, product price dot value, close our curly brace, add a semicolon at the end. We're good there. One last thing I want to do is when we are entering this information, we do want the button to be invalid if we have not validated both of these fields. And we can do that by creating a stream up here in the get. Now we don't need to create a variable for it, but the stream we want to create is part of RXDart, and we will create a Boolean. So let's do stream Boolean. We'll do get, and we'll call it product valid. So if it's true, it's valid, and if it's false, it's not. And we want to use a function. We'll use RXDart. We actually need to bring in RX, so let that auto import do its thing up here. Bring in RXDart. Dot combine latest 2. And what this will do, and if you have more fields, you can utilize these 7, 8, 9, whatever you need, combine latest list. This will take 2 streams that you give it, and it will combine them into one stream. And what you can do there, what we're going to do is write a real simple function here that says basically if we combine the latest 2 and we have 2 streams, then this form is valid. If one of those has been short-circuited by an error down here, then we only have 1 stream, and that's false, and the form is invalid. So we do RX combine latest 2, and so you can see stream A, stream B in our combiner. So let's call stream A, we'll give it product name, and then we'll give it product price. So we're just going right up here and doing these getters. So these are the post-validated, post-transformed streams. And our combiner, we just do this here. I could just do A.B, and it goes to true. And put a semicolon there, and maybe space that out a little bit. So what that's essentially doing is if we have both of these, which is A and B, then it goes to true, or just maybe to be a little bit more readable in our code, we could say the product name and the product price. Then that would go to true. All right, so hope that's clear. The RXDart combine latest 2 takes these 2 streams, and we get a function here, and basically we're saying if these produce values, then it's true. And if they don't, then it's going to be false. We can stream that back out to the button, and if it's false, we want that button grayed out. And if it's true, we can go ahead and allow the user to click it. All right, so now that we've got all this, we've got this block back here that we can use. Let's go back to our front page, to main.dart. And let's bring it in with the provider package. So let's wire up that block with the provider package. And we can do that by wrapping material app with a widget. And that widget will be provider. And we will need to import that. And sometimes it's a little stubborn about it. So in the meantime, I'll come down here. I'll do create. We'll do context. And I'm going to bring in my product block. And we want the parentheses because we want to create an instance of the product block. We want to pass it into our widget tree, and every widget below, which happens to be my home page only now, but if we had more widgets, can utilize this single instance of the product block. There we go. Provider is up to speed. I can auto import it here. I could have brought it in manually if I wanted to, but I was lazy and just figured I'd wait till it caught up with me. So right there. So this provider is now in our widget tree, and we can bring it in down here in our build method. So if I want to get a reference to the block that we just created, I can create a variable called block. And then I can say provider.of context, semicolon. And then after the of, I can tell it what I'm looking for in the widget tree. And I'm looking for a product block, and we'll close that. And it will go up the widget tree and find the first instance of this type that it finds, which is going to be our single instance of our provider block above our material app. It'll grab it, and now we have a reference to our block. So now that we have the block, we have our text field here in product name. We want to wire that up so it is talking to the parts or the fields in our block. So let's wrap the text field in a stream builder. And let's bring in the stream block dot product price. And now to use the block in each one of these widgets, we're going to want to add block, and block, and we want a product block here, and I'm just going to copy that into each one of these. Okay, so now in our onChange methods, we have a text field here. Let me format that. We have the text field, and onChanged, whenever that changes, we can call block.changeProductName, which is right there. So anytime we type, the block is going to get whatever we put and pass it back to our validator. Inside our input decoration, we have another property called error text, and we can give that our snapshot.error. So in our block back here, we validated the product name, and if it was less than 4, we added an error. And if it was greater than or equal to 4, we added it to the sync. And so when we pass it an error in the block, it's going to come out right here. So let's check that. I'm going to restart the state. Actually, oops, I got the wrong. Let me change that. That should be product name. Let's restart the state. And so if we do toy space, it just autocorrect me. Toy soldier. There we go. So once we get to the 4th character, it's gone. So that works. So we come down here to the product price, do the same thing. We're going to wrap it with a stream builder. And actually for object here, I'm just going to do string. And this will be a double. So we do block dot product price. And so we can add a error text. And that will be our snapshot.error. And then down below the input decoration, we can do an onChanged. And we can do block change product price. I'm going to format that, hit save. So we got our name, has to be at least 4 characters, and 56 is fine. 56Y is not a number, so we lose that there. All right, that's working. Last thing we need to do is wire up our button. So let's wrap our raise button in a stream builder as well. And that is going to be of type Boolean. And so it's block dot, what did I say, product valid? Yeah, that sounds about right. And so we don't want an error property on this, but what we want to do is in our onPressed, we want to take this out And so what we want to do is if our snapshot dot has data, actually not has data, then we want to pass it null, and that will disable the button. If the snapshot does have data, then we want the function when on press to be block submit product. All right, so I'll save that. I'm just going to code format, save again. And so we can see our button is grayed out. If I were to, I would be deleting there, I want to be in the emulator. All right, if we were to put like 45 in there, and I need to actually take out these parentheses. This should just be a function, not an instance of the function. All right, let's try that again. So if I add a, darn it, this is my problem. I keep being in the wrong place. All right, get that out of there. Come back over here and I add an H to the emulator. This is no longer valid. This can no longer be clicked. If I get rid of it, I can click it. I see down here, product submitted with name toy and price 45. And if I get rid of the space after toy and bring this down to, oops, sorry about that, bring this down to less than 4 characters, then I have an error here. I have an invalid button. So that is a validation in Flutter using Bloc, using the provider package. It makes for a very simple, very flexible way of validating this. Again, in our Bloc, we wrote our own validation logic, and you could write whatever complex logic you need here to be able to determine whether you want that field to be valid or an error. So hope you found that helpful. As always, if you did, please like, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.